Just, Doug, I have a quick question. Not a beer or a cocktail? Really? Come on, up your game. Doug always likes to come up with creative ways to discuss topics. This one, he thought of a Rolling Stones, so I think that's Let It Bleed. Is that the album? Somebody correct me. But it's, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. So we're going to talk about that, and hopefully, can you, oh boy, I'm going to need to look this way then. I'm going to flip this a little bit and talk about what we need, and then talk a little bit about what we've got. So let me do that, because I think it's important to start out what that graph, and I'm going to give you a takeaway here in a minute, but let me explain what that is. You see the blue line says DWRF, that's the Drinking Water Revolving Fund. That's the funding we get from EPA under the Safe Drinking Water Act. You see WPCRF, that's the Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund. That's the funding we get under the Clean Water Act from EPA. And every year, the Water Quality Control Division does a pretty detailed survey of all the systems that we're aware of across the state. We ask them to provide us information about their capital needs for the next 5 years. Yes, if you want to provide 20 years, that's fine, but the numbers that you see on that screen are really capturing the next 5 years of capital needs for these systems. And the important takeaway here is that in the last 5 years, those needs have doubled. And these are good ballpark numbers. So you can see they've both gone to about $10 billion on each side of the treatments, water, drinking water and wastewater. So, and what I would suggest to think about with these numbers is that emerging issues, like we've heard probably far too much about PFAS, I have no idea what impacts that's going to have on these survey needs. I don't think the systems do yet. There's a lot to come before we can say with any certainty what kind of cost that's going to be. So, Kurt, if you would. So, what do we have? Under our state revolving fund programs, right now, given the current level of capitalization grants that we get, again, from the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act from EPA, we're able to execute loans of $60 to $80 million on both sides, on drinking water and wastewater per year. If those capitalization grants decline, or when they originally did those, they were supposed to last for 5 years. They've been going on for about 30 years now. So hopefully that funding will continue. But right now, and so you look at those surveyed needs and you look at the capacity that we have to fund that. Not all those projects are going to come through at once, but you can see the level of the funding gap that we have potentially. So, again, I don't want to get too bogged down in a bunch of numbers, but this just demonstrates the number of loans that we've done each year over a 5-year period. You can see it kind of bounces around. That's because for some reason in a 1-year period, we had several large projects. For example, like the city of Durango's sewer plant, that was $63 million on its own. But why don't we go ahead? And I show this because what we've recognized in the last few years is the increasing cost of construction, and our engineer friends are just not able to get their arms around the cost of these projects. It is astonishing. It doesn't look so bad on the drinking water side. So what that 7% represents is the number of loans. If they borrowed for a project, they had to come back for additional funding. Not so bad on the drinking water side, but on the wastewater side, 22% of our borrowers have had to come back for additional funding because of cost increases. So you've got this escalating construction costs out there. And I think it's worth mentioning because, again, that may not be really detected in those surveys if you're bringing it to current day construction costs. So, and then the nice thing, the other two figures that you see there, is that 50% of our borrowers on the drinking water side have borrowed from us for other projects before, 56% on the wastewater side. So, okay, so we're going to talk about some numbers from when I began in this water adventure back in 1994, 1995. And we dug through some files. It took some digging. But when we do a credit report, we provide the board with information, all kinds of information. We do all kinds of metrics. But one of the things, we compare that borrower's user rates against the state average. Back in 1994, that state average water rate was about $22. Currently, the last number that we have, it's a little over $47. Oh, Aaron Wilson, what a sweetheart.
There you go.
Oh, man. No. Wow. Ask and ye shall receive. Woo. Wilson Water Group. Right on. Man, what a surprise. Okay, I'm buying you lunch in a couple of weeks, Aaron. On the sewer side, that's great. Sewer rates were about $11 back in 1994 on average.
You're having trouble focusing now.
I am now. It's calling. And there's olives in it too. 2020, that rate is a little over $33. And what that tells you is that water rates have increased about 2.5 times, and the sewer rates about 3 times. And obviously you ask, well, why is that? Well, again, the cost of infrastructure, I would say the ever-marching regulation that we have to comply with. We learn about new things that we need to treat for, and so that cost of treating for those various constituents goes up. So again, Webb kind of touched on this, but when I started, the authority had done about 42 loans for about $157 million. And I give full credit. Dan Law created these programs, really. He started at the authority in 1984, and he really is responsible for getting these things started. I just picked up where he left off. So now, 2020, we've executed, and this is loans originated, so it's not what we have currently outstanding. It's how many loans have we executed and for what dollar amount. And to date, since we began, we've executed 702 loans for $2.66 billion. And again, when you look at those surveyed needs, this is over, our first loan was done in 1986. There's still a big gap between what we've executed and what is identified as being needed out there. So, next. Ooh,
My turn?
turning it over here.
All right, thank you. My name's Kirk Russell. I'm the Finance Section Chief of the Colorado Water Conservation Board. Very blessed to get to do what I do and work with Mike over the years. I'm going to try something a little different. I think it could get a little bit bogged down with dollar signs and numbers. So I did a little research here as we've talked about Mike's departure after a commitment to what we do for 26 years. And so I put together
Who's that guy on the left?
Yeah, from 1994, that gentleman on the left side there, to Mike Brode that we know today on the right. So back in 1994, we had cell phones that looked like the Razor, I think is what that was called. Anybody got a Razor out there still? Maybe one? Tom Check, I think, said he had a Razor. Mike is blessed to have a 13, 14-year-old daughter who can help him out with that smartphone after he leaves the IT assistance he'll have.
If she's talking to me.
I like this one. The Ford F-150 in 1994 looked really good back in 94. Now I kind of like the one on the 2020 model. Times have changed. And the Broncos, interesting. In 1994, we were still playing in Mile High Stadium. That's surprising when I saw that on the... And by the way, you can do this on the internet. I spent way too long going down the rabbit hole looking for these things, so...
Yes.
My wife could attest to that. People Magazine, back in 1994. This was actually on Mike's coffee table when I went over to visit him. And so you got Brad Pitt on the left in 94 and John Legend today. And what's interesting, Mike, you were a finalist, right? Both years that this came out.
Actually, I have been told I look sort of like Liam Neeson, but I don't buy it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not
I
buying
can
it.
see it.
So.
How about the gas pump in 1994? Very simple gas pump. I kind of miss those days. Although, that one on the right, it has that TV screen that gives you the ESPN update, and you're done pumping your gas, and you stand there and watch it for another couple minutes while the guy's waiting behind you to move in. Yeah, that's me. The Rockies, guys on the left, the Blake Street Bombers were in town in 94. And then you can see the uniform change on the right. 26 years used to seem like a long time, but all of a sudden it's really not that long ago once you get old. The album that Mike was referring to cost about $17 in 94. Now you can get it for $40 if you have a CD player and you want to actually buy that album. The movie theater tickets always blows me away how much that's gone up in price. But this one, and so I've talked to Mike in his retirement. He's looking for a job. I thought I could have him work on why does popcorn have to cost $8 out of that little box.
I'm going to have to go to Olathe and talk to the farmers over there.
That's too much.
Get some sweet corn for that popping, right?
It's too much money. All right, Super Bowl 1994. San Francisco was in there, surprise, surprise. Steve Young there. But the number we're looking at is you could buy a 30-second ad. It was a bargain price of $1 million back then. It's almost $6 million now, coming up here Sunday. Minimum wage has gone up quite a bit, you can see, $4.25 to $12 over the years. Now this one, don't go research this because there's a little bit of Kirkopedia that I worked with here.
That, would you?
I might have, made some of this number up, but it's close. It's all about the impact.
Thought. It's the thought.
Thanks. All right, let me quickly get through these. Big Mac's gone up, about doubled in price. It's way too much. But when you're talking about McDonald's, another job I've got for Mike, somebody's got to do an audit on this. $99 billion.
But how do you audit even more?
Yeah, that's just a big number.
Yeah.
It's just a big number. Didn't fit in the box, so I couldn't put it in.
Kind of looks like the federal debt, even more.
Price at the pump, we all know that went up. It obviously was a little higher back in 2012, up over $3.50.
You know what it was when I was, let's see. When I was born, it was 29 cents a gallon. And I've seen it not far from where I grew up at 19 cents a gallon. That's a long time ago.
You're old.
I'm old.
The Eisenhower Tunnel, again, don't do the research, just trust me on these numbers. CDOT, I pulled this out, 8.4 million cars went through the tunnel in 94, 13.4 in 2020, and I think 13 million of those go through every time I'm trying to go through there.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
Cost of stamps, that's gone up. So now we'll talk about money and loans. The prime lending rate was 9% back when Mike started in 94. It's now 4.75, and now's an opportunity for me to share. And Mike's well aware of this. The interest rates are ridiculously low. So those of you that are considering a project through the
now
through us or the Water and Power Authority I keep saying they cannot go lower.
And they keep going lower.
And I will, as an example, you all, I shouldn't say you all, many of you have reservoirs and some of them need some safety repairs. If you have a storage restriction on a reservoir in Colorado and you're an agricultural borrower with a ditch company for agricultural use, and you borrow money for 10 years, it's just about a 0.1% interest rate from the Colorado Water Conservation Board. I don't know what happens when that goes negative if it continues. So that's why I'm saying it can't go any lower.
You're going to pay people to borrow money?
We're going to have to pay you to borrow money from us. So that's the Mike history stuff, and I'll get into a little bit of CWCB's money, but I want to thank Mike from the Colorado Water Conservation Board, Becky Mitchell, and the chair, Heather Dutton, at our board meeting, they were loving on Mike and for his service to the state of Colorado and all you've done.
Thank you.
And from DNR. So thank you, and friendships as well.
Friendship's important.
So to talk a little bit about the Colorado Water Conservation Board funding side, this is a graph representing the growth since 2008 in CWCB's revolving loan program. And so CWCB does not operate out of the general fund. We're able to operate all what CWCB does out of the earnings, the interest earnings from the loan program. And you can see that bar in estimated 2020 is just about $1 billion. And so that money that's generating that interest, fortunate for you all, unfortunate for the earnings side, we make money off of the interest rates for that loan program, and I know many of you are borrowers of CWCB, and thank you for participating in the loan program. And this, the red lines are the severance tax. You've heard us talk regularly about the volatility of severance tax. It continues to go up and down, very difficult to predict. We've pretty much accepted the fact that it's about a 5-year average of $36 to $40 million, and that's what I have to use because we're chasing, like a $5 million one year and $75 million the next. And so we try to talk in averages, and so that's why you're seeing that's the growth that you're seeing there as well. The total loan dollars per year, I was trying to match Mike's presentation a little bit. So since 2008, you can see we don't have the luxury of having a survey like the Water and Power Authority was talking about. And so we respond to the need, and you can see what the need has been over the years. Any loan over $10 million goes into our projects bill and gets legislative approval, and so you can see the taller bars there. We've topped out at about $140 million or so in loans a couple times in the past 10 years. And so because we have this large fund equity that we're able to work with, and with severance tax revenues coming in, we're able to do some different things with some grants. And of course, folks like grants better than loans. I don't argue with that. But you can see when the water plan was created in 2015, we started dedicating some revenue that we had coming in from those investments, and made it available for the implementation of the water plan. Many of you know them as water plan grants, and there's some other programs that we fund out of that. You heard Governor Polis talk about $10 million last year and this year that he had in his budget for the implementation of the water plan. So that money's on top of these columns, and we're very fortunate to have that available. And so this year we will hopefully have another $10 million as well. A lot of folks want to talk about DD and if that's the silver bullet to all this. It certainly will help. It's yet to be known how large of an impact that will have. I am a little concerned about chasing another volatile revenue stream, so I don't know if it will bring a steady revenue coming in for water plan implementation. As you all know, there's a lot of work to be done around the state. Aging infrastructure is a big issue. Trying to achieve that 400,000 acre feet of storage. We're doing our best to incentivize some of that work, but it takes time, and so we need to start now. Interest rates are ridiculously low, and there's hopefully some grant money to help out with that. So, my last item, the takeaways. These are some numbers to work with in the grand scheme of things. We typically receive the $40 million on average from severance tax, and again, that money goes into the revolving loan program, so we take that volatile revenue stream annually and turn it into a steady return on investment from loans out to water providers around the state. We get about $10 million annually from federal mineral leases. $20 million is the interest earnings, and then the bottom side of that list, it takes us about $10 million to operate CWCB and run the different programs that we have. And then we say we typically have about $50 million available for new loans every year. And then $20 million is that water plan implementation funding. And that can vary as well depending on the interest rates and revenues coming in. So this last slide, I think this is Mike's favorite slide, and Mike and I travel around the state and talk about funding opportunities, and this picture always bothered me. I got uncomfortable.
Nobody likes talking about wastewater.
And it's wastewater humor, and we're on the supply side, so I struggled with this slide. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to give Mike a gift. Everybody's been giving Mike gifts this last week, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do a little shopping and get Mike a gift.
What you got there?
Let's see here.
Yeah. Oh, yay.
So from Kirk to Mike, I got him a gift. So thank you, Mike, for your service and your friendship.
Let's take a picture. Hey. Hey. I'm reinvigorated. The challenge has been accepted, right?
I spent a lot of money on that. That's the good stuff.
Oh, right. Double ply, right?
Exactly right.
Thank you. And again, the intent here is not to be alarmist, but it's to help everybody recognize the challenges that we do face. But with this group that sits in front of me, there's a lot of bright minds in here because over the years, the decades, I have learned so much from all of you. Look, I'm a finance guy. I'm not a water guy, but I've learned a lot about water. Even though I sat through a rainstorm of 43 inches, I didn't learn much about water, except when there's too much. And we don't have that problem most of the time here. So, but I want to say thank you all for your friendships, and that's the most important thing, is the friendships that you make when you're in a business like this. And I just wish the citizenry of the state could recognize the efforts that we in this room recognize that you accomplished. And so I want to say thank you very much. And it's been my privilege, honor, and a blessing to me. So thank you. By the way, that is real. I'm going to take this with me.
Thank you very much, Mike.